to realize that I was a black person in the States.
All right, Boker Tov. Good morning. It is the 18th day in the Omer. It is also Yom HaZikaron. So our learning should be in memory of all those who have given their lives to protect the people in the state of Israel. We pick up, today's daf is Samach Aleph 61. We pick up towards the bottom of Samach Bet, a little bit before the Mishnah. We were dealing with somebody who says, this is your get from now and after 30 days. There we said there was a whole range of possibilities, whether it meant from now, whether it meant there was a question whether you mean from now or 30 days, or whether it was some ongoing type of a way in which to get to get. Did I say get? I meant Kiddushin. We're comparing it to get. But anyway, an ongoing way in which the Kiddushin took place. And then the most recent mission, which is this is your Kiddushin, I marry you, again, on the condition that, not that you give me, I give you 200 zuz. And there, although there was some debate, overwhelmingly all the evidence is that almanat means k'me'ach shavdami. It's I'm marrying you now on the condition that at some time in the future, this condition is met. That was clearly a position of Rabbi. There was nobody obviously who argued on Rabbi. Many thought that there's a wide assumption that that's a consensus position, although there is a minority voice that actually is a matter of debate. Okay, we pick up at the bottom of Mem Amud Samach Amud Bet. Right before, 2 lines before the lines get at the bottom of the narrow lines. This is your, I'm marrying you. If I give you 200 zuz from now to 30 days, he has to give her within 30 days. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Mar says, Pshita, obviously, that's exactly what he said. No, Ma'odetema, I might have thought, Lav Tnahave, who, when he says within 30 days, it's not part of the condition. He's just saying, the condition is I'll give you 200 zuz. Within 30 days is like a promise, what he's doing to sort of like, urge himself, encourage himself to do it quickly. But it's not actually strictly part of the condition. Kamash Malan, that we don't say that he framed it as part of the condition. So if it's not done within 30 days, she's not Mekudeshes. I'm not usually Matayim Zuz. If I have 200 zuz, she's married. If he does have 200 zuz, so the simple sense of the Mishnah is she's married if he has, the implication being that if he doesn't have 200 zuz, she's definitely not married. But how do you prove a negative? How do you prove that he doesn't have 200 zuz? So you checked his bank account. So what did you do? You looked in his wallet. How do you know? Maybe he's got it hidden in some offshore account. How can you assert definitively that he's not married?
Where would that be? In Crete?
Yeah, cute. The Otanya, and we also taught Cheshinan Shemiyeh Shlo. We have a Breita that says explicitly that even if he can't even if it doesn't seem that he has 200 zuz, she's definitely not married. We're concerned that he might have 200 zuz. So the word says, Lokash, you're right. Have a Kedushin, but I have a Kedushin suffix. Normally when it says Habit this and Habit that, it's like Kimta. But this isn't Kimta. This is basically saying they're all talking about the same thing. Our Mishnah means that if he doesn't have 200 zuz, she's not definitely married. The Breita clarifies that she's not definitely married, but she's also not definitely not married. That since you can't prove whether the condition was met, she is suffix married, which is of course the worst of both worlds. If she wants to marry another man, she needs to get, but she's not definitively married to this man. Okay, so you're right. When you cannot prove if a t'nai has been satisfied, then the result is suffix. Okay, I'm not Matayim Zuz. I'm condition. I show you 200 zuz. If he shows her she's married, but as Mr. clarifies, he has to show her of his own money. He can't show her some money on if he's a money changer and it's other people's money. That's not sufficient. The example I gave is let's say you say, the condition that I will show you a house filled with jewels. You can't go ahead and take her to the a house filled with impressionist paintings. You can't go and take her to the Metropolitan. Okay, the implication is that it's his. All right. So the Gemara says Tana lo niskavna el liros mishalom. When he says show you, it means I'll show you my own. That's clear from the implications. I'll show you that I have it, even though he didn't say the words that I have it. And that's interesting, right? Because there's a case where technically the words were satisfied. But we say, sometimes to use context, it's not Dvarim Shabalev, because if there's an implicit context that everybody understands, then that defines it. And we just showed her on a table that he was like a money changer and it wasn't his money, then she's not Mekudeshes. Pshita, obviously. Let's say it is money, other people's money that he is investing. Okay, so that's like somewhat of a middle thing. It's not completely not his money. He's been given the money to invest. He has maybe a stake in the money. So he's got like, I've got $1 billion of assets that I invest in my, in my mutual fund here. But nevertheless, it's not your $1 billion. So even though you're going to make profit off of it, okay, it's not your money. So that is not satisfying the condition. Yes.
So let's not go for a minute back to the very first case.
Right.
How could Almanat possibly not be a Tanai?
Well, Menachem Telach is definitely the Tanai, but Mikan Shloshim Yom might be more not directly part of the Tanai itself.
So the concern of the Gemara is that the Tanai language is now counterbalanced with language that might not be a Tanai. So
how much of the statement is strictly part of the condition? I'll give you $100, and let's even here's a more complicated. Let's say take a pause. I have a condition on the condition. I give you $100. Pause within 30 days. Okay, so how much would you say that's like an additional thing? Like I'm promising to try to do within 30 days, or is that strictly a part of the condition? So the Gemara just says it's not a big suffix, but the Gemara just clarifies that you read this. The second half of that statement remains strictly part of the condition. Okay, yes.
The last case, is it fundamentally because an investment is not your money anymore, or is it because of the lack of liquidity back in time?
No, it's not that it's not your money anymore. It never was your money. People gave him their money for him to invest, and he gets a percentage.
Oh, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Oh,
so therefore, he's showing her 200 zuz, and 200 zuz that he even has certain rights to and will get certain profit out of. But it's not his 200 zuz. The 200 zuz he was given to invest. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now. So the Gemara says like this: Almanat. The next Mishnah is almost the same, except with a different sort of case scenarios. Almanat sheyesh beit kor afar, on the condition that I have a plot of land the size of a beit kur, which is basically it's 5. What is it? It's Rashi says
75,000.
Thank you, 75,000 square amos. It's 75,000 square amos. Okay, it's an acre, whatever it is. We'll make that up. I don't know if it's an acre. Okay, anyway, she's married if he actually has that amount of land. If I have a beit kur in a certain location, so it's not enough that he has. He said that it's within a certain location. So if it's in a different location, she's not married. If I show you a beit kur afar, she's married for your Enna, and he has to show it to her, but it's going to be clear, just like the issue with the money before. Why is he showing it to her? If not implicitly means show you that I have it. Now we'll just take a little trip to the country. Okay, if he shows her in the valley and it's not his and it's somebody else's or it's ownerless or whatever, Eina Mekudeshes, she's not. Very parallel to the discussion of the money.
What's a beit kur afar? What's that?
About like it's a plot of land. I mean, why it says afar? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right, because the implication here is we're going to see in a minute, that the point of showing it to her, the point of showing it to her is to show that he has land to provide for her. Mm-hmm. So afar does suggest, you're right, a little bit more like it's not fertile land. So I don't know why. Yeah, that's the phrase, beit kur afar. I don't know exactly why, but that's the phrase. Okay, so the Gemara says, so again, it sounds from the Mishnah that if he doesn't have, she's not married. But why not? She should be suffix married. You can't prove that he doesn't have. Tanya, we say that in a breita. That if he doesn't have, where she's still, it's a possibility that he does, and she's a suffix married. Like we said before, you're right. The Mishnah means she's not definitely married if it hasn't been fulfilled. But if you don't know if he has or not, then you can't prove a negative. So therefore, he's suffix. So the Gemara says, why do you have to tell me essentially the same thing by land and by money? These two Mishnayot. I need to tell me both. Had you said by money, that's because people, hide away their money. They put them in offshore accounts. So therefore, even if he doesn't have, we would still say she's suffix mikudeshes because it's reasonable that there's money hidden somewhere. Aval Ara, but by land, I might think that if it's not obvious that he has the land, we should assume that he definitely does not. It's harder for people to hide away, to hide their ownership of property. It's much easier to just, to secret money away. So maybe by the land, I would say that if he doesn't have, then it doesn't seem that he has. She's Vadai Eina Mikudeshes. Kamash Mulan, that we don't say that. Then in either case, if he has, she's Mikudeshes. If he doesn't have, meaning if as far as we know he doesn't have, then we don't say that she's Eina Mikudeshes. We say she's Suffolk Mikudeshes.
I don't know why all these women want to get involved with all these guys. Like every single case is like shady.
All right. Now,
Are we missing the other half of the
what?
Are we missing the other half of the?
Oh, why couldn't just tell me the land without the whatever?
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like, you could make a case that land is somewhere else and you're not somewhere else. He may have inherited something from father, but that contradicts the whole basis for Kalaisla is the foundation for a whole body of law.
Right, exactly. Right. It's a very good point. Yeah. Why could they have just told me the case by the land, and I would have known the. And if there I'm Chayshina, and then certainly I'm Chayshina in the case of the money. Yeah. Good question. Yeah, I don't know. Good question. Okay, I'm an if I have it in a certain place, then it's only good if the land is in that place. Pshita, obviously, that's part of the condition. No, maybe you could say, look, I've got the land. Well, what's the big deal? I said that it was, 20 miles out of the city, and it's 30 miles out of the city. Why? What difference does it make? The whole issue that I'm promising you the land, saying that I have the land, is so you know that I have what to provide, right? So it's a little bit further out. It means that it's a little bit more of a schlep to go there to harvest it and to bring it into the city. Don't worry, I'll do the schlepping. It's not a big difference. Okay, Kamash Malan, tough luck. That was part of the condition. It doesn't matter if you could say that there's not a substantive difference. Now it's an interesting question, right? Which is it goes back to this issue about how much is the how much do we go strictly by the words and how much do we apply context? Like we see by the end when he says, if I'll show you money, show you a bait core, going strictly by the words isn't enough. The context means it has to be his money, it has to be his plot of land. So how much could we say also? That's when essentially something wasn't said and we're sort of filling in something that wasn't said. It's a little bit different when something was said and we're discounting it. That I have it in this place or within 30 days. And say, yeah, you didn't really mean this place. You didn't really mean 30 days, right? So that's like one question. How much can we use context to discount something that was said explicitly? That obviously should be a much higher threshold than to put something in that wasn't said. The other question is about is that it's not like there was a clear implicit understanding that when I said 30 days, I didn't really mean it. When I said, this place, when I say this place, people say this place, they don't mean this place. That's not the point. The point isn't that context makes it clear that you meant something else, but what you're actually trying to say is that it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't be a substantive part of the Tanai because nobody really cares about it. And if it's something that you really don't have the right to care about, then it shouldn't be understood as part of the condition, right? So that's a different question. What's the Kamash Milan of the Gemara? Is the Kamash Milan of the Gemara that the woman really does care because she'd rather have land closer than further away? Or is the Kamash Milan that even if the woman doesn't care, you don't get to change it? Let's say he says, I'm going to put it, it's over there. It's like 3.7 miles out of the city and it's 3.69 or some other thing that really we could all agree nobody cares about, right? I mean, that's maybe not a good example because that's how you define 3.7, but you know my point, right? If it was something that actually was trivial, it's the plot of land right by the red sign and it happened to be the plot of land right by the blue sign, right? So something we could agree that nobody cares about. Is that enough to say that that's not part of the Tanai? Or do we say no? Nobody questions what the words meant. You said those words explicitly. There was no context to say those words meant something else. Right? So that's not clear in the Gemara what the Havamina is. What's the Kamash Milan? Is it the Kamash Milan that the woman does care? Or the Kamash Milan is it doesn't matter whether she cares or not? That was part of the condition. And it's not like context says you meant something else. Even with context, that's what you meant. So in the end, that remains part of the
You know,
condition.
at a certain point, if somebody constantly is not really saying exactly what's true,
Right.
you get an uneasy feeling about.
Well, that's also true.
truthfulness of the
Yeah, but you're trying to make it like the person cares. I'm trying to say, like, honest mistake. The person doesn't care, whatever. So what? It was part of the Tanai. Tanai wasn't satisfied, right? What we've seen earlier is that if you could add words, like when he says, I'll show it to you, he meant, I'll show you mine, because that's a place where context and the general understanding that any normal person would have would be that is what you meant. But when it's clear what you meant, but it turns out that it was a trivial point that nobody really should have any right to care about, how much would that be a basis to say, well, then it's not part of the Tanai? Right? That's not clear in the Gemara what the Kamash Milan is. All right, now the Gemara continues. If I show you Beit Kor Afar, Tana, Lo Niskavna Zuel L'Rot Mishalo. Again, when he says show you, it doesn't mean just show you, it means show you mine. And that's why the Inhera Bevika in Mikudeshes, if it's in a valley that he doesn't own, she's not Mikudeshet. Similar to the case before that you're investing other people's money. Here you are a sharecropper of the land. So nevertheless, even though you're a sharecropper, now that actually is a good Havamina, because you didn't say I'll show you mine. You said I'll show you a plot of land. And maybe I just need to promise this woman, implicit show her that I have what to support our family with. And I actually do have a sharecropping rights into this land, right? So now it's a good Havamina, and maybe that was similar to the case before when I have rights to invest other people's money. Maybe I do have a way of making money and supporting the family. So here it's really quite interesting. I never said it was mine. I just said, I'll show you the land. I just said, I'll show you the money. Show me the money. Okay. Right. And nevertheless, we interpret it to mean that means that you will show you her land that you fully own. Show money that's fully yours. And the fact that you have rights to it and can make a profit off of it is not a fulfillment of the Tanai, even though you haven't even said that you'll do that, right? You haven't even said that it's yours. That seems so clearly what's implicit, that if it's not fully yours, you did not fulfill the Tanai. Do you have a question, Anna?
Yeah, and with the money, it's not it's I'll show you. It's not I'm going to give it to you. Then,
right.
So it's not like he has to be able to give her this land either.
Exactly.
That would make sense if it's not his to give.
Right. But the point is, we assume the reason he said show was to demonstrate to her that he has the means of supporting the family. But even though he never even said mine, and even though he has the land, he has access to it and rights to it in a way to make money off of it. This is what really is surprising. We read in the word mine, and then that has to be completely satisfied. Okay, so it's quite interesting here how we define the Tanai. Okay, now the Gemara says the following. Now, what defines whether you have a Beit Afar, whether you have this amount of land? You say it's easy. Just get out your, ruler or something, or go onto Google Maps and measure it. But here we've got a question. Because if somebody sanctifies his field, b'shara yovel, hamakish sadeh b'shara yovel. Okay, now the Torah says that when it's the yovel and you sanctify your field, your Beit Achuzah, if your Stei Achuzah, if it's time to, if you want to redeem it from hektish, rather than paying the market value, you pay a fixed amount. You pay, you pay a shekel for every plot of land that can be zera chomer se'orim, the amount of land that you plant a chomer of a certain quantity of barley seed on it. Okay, so that's the halacha. That's in the Torah. Okay, notice in Bezerah Chomer Sarim, for every plot of land the size of the plot that you would plant a chomer, whatever that is, a certain quantity of barley seed on, 50 shekel kesef. I said it should be 50 shekel of kesef. That's explicit in the Torah. That's the rate of redeeming it from hectares. Now, let's say the land has crevices 10 tefachim deep, which is about 3 feet deep. Or rocks 3 tefachim tall. They're not measured with the land. Less than that means dadim ima are measured with the land. Now, basically, I'll just tell you an interesting little parenthetical point. What does it mean measured with? Normally you think, what do you mean measured with? It means measured. No, but let's say, right? Here's your plot of land, okay, and here's your rock, okay. So Rashi says what measured with means is that not only would you sort of say, okay, so this is like X amount of you would just measure the straight width here, but you would actually measure like this, go up the rock and down the rock and like that. So that when you are measuring it, if it's measured with, because it's part of a flat plot of land, you actually, I mean, if the whole thing obviously was elevated, you would just measure the top area. But since you're basically starting here, if this is seen as part of the land, let's say it was just a mound, right? Would you just go the straight sort of, width, or would you actually say the plot that's like, that you would travel, or the plot, the area that could be planted. Now the problem is that you can't really plant a rock. Okay, well, which we'll get to in a minute. But anyway, so that's what Rashi says. Others disagree. Others say no. I mean, Dadin Nima just means you just pretend like it's flat and it's not there. But Ainim Dadin Nima means that if this is a rock that's too tall or a crevice that's too deep, then even if this is the right size, but you have to subtract, cut out that square of where the crevice is. Okay, so that's the more relevant to us, what the Ainim Dadin Nima is, and then you don't have a big enough plot of land. All right, so you don't include, you measure the width and the length to find the area, but any space that's too tall or too deep, you have to subtract from the total area.
Too tall or too deep to cultivate, in other words.
Well, here defined by, presumably, but here defined, well, you can't cultivate a rock, which is what we're going to get to, but here defined by 10 tefachim high or 10 tefachim deep. So it's not, the pshat is not necessarily too tall to cultivate, but just it's in a different space. It's not in the same. 10 tefachim is considered to be the same with shus. Anything that's too high or that's too deep is its own separate location and not part of the same plot of land. Okay, so that's what it says. Ainim Dadin Nima. Vavina, but we asked, you find it's not sanctified as one unit with that whole plot of land, but you still said, I'm sanctifying this land. So even if you consider the rocks or the crevices different, you sanctified the whole thing. So now, fine, I got two plots of land that's sanctified. The main area and the crevice. The crevice is a different space, it's sanctified. But either way, you sanctified everything. What difference does it make if you say it's part of the land or not part of the land? Okay? So the Gemara says, no, here's why it makes a difference whether you consider them part of the land or not. Maybe the Torah says you pay a redemption value for every beit kur. Okay? That's what this Zerach Chomer Sorim is. I should have mentioned that. Is the same beit kur of the Mishnah. Okay? So, right, the Mishnah says you promised to show this woman a beit kur. This is the comparison we're going to make. The beit kur is that case in the Torah of Zerach Chomer Sorim that you pay 50 shekel kesef. So maybe you would say, what if the plot of land is less than a beit kur? Maybe it doesn't go into the Torah's category of redeeming it for 50 shekel. So how much would you redeem it for? So actually, Rashi says, well, if it doesn't fit into the Torah's category, then you would redeem it for market value, which might actually wind up being more money. Okay, there's no way of knowing. But basically, the Torah says there's a fixed amount you redeem. For every beit kur, zerach chomer sorim, you would 50 shekel. So you sanctified this plot of land. It was exactly a beit kur. But then you had to subtract the space where there was the crevices, deep crevices and tall rocks. So what difference does it make? Those crevices and rocks are sanctified by themselves. But since you don't have a full beit kur that is sanctified as a unit, and also the crevices and rocks are not a beit kur, maybe you go by a different way of redeeming it, not by the 50 shekel. Maybe each thing gets redeemed based on market value.
It would be more expensive. Okay,
probably more expensive. Anyway, that's the issue. That would be the nafkamina of whether you look at it as together or not. Gemara says that's not true. Viramina, I'll ask you on that. Sada, it says, when a person is makdish at stay achuzato, why does it say the field? Why doesn't it just say achuzato? Ma'al Talmud Omer, why does it have that extra word field? The Fishan Emer zerach chomer sorim b'chamishim shekel kesef, 50, this amount of planting a chomer of barley, this beit kur for 50 shekel. Ainli ala shiktish b'inyan hazeh. Maybe it's only if it's that size land. Minayin l'rabos letech v'chatzi letech sav tirkav v'chatzi tirkav afilu rova. How do you know even much smaller sizes of land? Each one of those is a smaller area measurement. That even there would be proportional to the 50 shekel. So if it would be a size of land that would be a tenth of a beit kur, it would be 5 shekel. How do I know you do a proportional to this amount?
Prorate.
So prorate, well, proportional. Talmud Omar, sadeh mikol makom, any type of field. So now we've got a question, right? What difference does it make if I say the whole thing is sanctified, and it's 50, and it's a beit core, and I pay 50 kesef. I say, no, you can't count the rocks and the crevices. So what you really have is you have one field that's 49, that's 0.9 of a beit core, and you've got this other rock or crevice that's 0.1 of a beit core, and they're sanctified, and they're separate units. Who cares a separate unit? Each one would be redeemed in a prorated basis. It all winds up to be the same. What difference does it make if I call it 1 unit or 2 units? So let's see what the Gemara says. So this is the point about which Dov was hitting on, which is it plantable or not? We're talking about a crevice that is filled with water. Therefore, what? That they can't be planted. Like a rock. If it can't be planted, here's the story. If it can't be planted, then you don't have to, then clearly, when do I redeem based on the 50 shekel per beit core? If it's a sadeh, if it's a plantable space. But if I say this rock is excluded, I've got 0.9 of a beit core plus a 0.1 beit core rock, so the 0.9 gets redeemed based on the normal 50 shekel rate. But the 0.1 rock or the 0.1 crevice filled with water is not a field. Right? It's not plantable, does not get redeemed based on that rate. Does it? So how much would it be redeemed for? Whatever the market value would be. I don't know how much people are paying for rocks or people are paying for crevices filled with water, but it is not a field. Okay, and that's why by excluding it, you redeem the remainder of the field based on the prorated value, and this gets redeemed not as a field because it's not plantable. 1 minute. So then the Gemara asks the obvious question. So say that even if it's less than 10 tfachim, if it's not plantable, why does it get included in the field? So the Gemara says, if it's less than 10 tfachim, also why is it included in the field? It's not plantable. No. Hanu nagne da'ara mikru. If the crevice is less than 10 tfachim deep and it's filled with water, it's called like a basin of the land, like a puddle in the land. Shidra da'ara mikru. It's called the spine of the land if it's a rock, meaning you don't have to say, if it is incorporated into the field, it doesn't have to be that every square inch of the field is plantable. Once you look at it as a feature of the field, okay, this is the whole field that basically is plantable. We can call it a field. If it's got certain areas that are not, those are just topographical features within the field. But fundamentally, it's still all a field. So if it was not so deep or not so high, it's a whole field that's the areas of beit core, and you would pay 50 shekel for the whole beit core. Because we say if it's too high or too deep, it's not just a piece of the field, it's a separate space. Once it's a separate space, then you've got a 0.9 beit core, which you redeem prorated, and then you also have a rock or a crevice, which isn't the field at all. Okay, so that's clear. When in its own space, it's not included in, and it's not even a field because you look at it in its own terms. When it's lower, when it's not as high and not as deep, then it's a feature of the field, and then you look at the entire field as a unit, and you say this is a plantable field when you look at it as a unit. Even there are certain areas on it that can't be planted, and you redeem the whole field as a full beit core. Okay,
Fascinating ways of looking at land. Does this come back in Baba Batra in real estate?
Well, yes, we're actually going to see a case very similar to it in the next. So that's by hektish. By hektish, something is not seen. A crevice is not seen as part of the beit core only if it's filled with water. Okay, but if it's not filled with water, presumably it would be part of it. Okay, now that's by that. Okay, now that's true by hektish. Gabi mecher tanan, and as Dov correctly anticipated, in Baba Basra, when it comes to selling something, we taught. See, there's again that phrase beit kor afar. I'm going to sell you a beit core of land. If there were deep crevices or tall rocks, they're not measured with it. So what I would have to do is I would have to give you more flat land, right? If I sold you this, and this was a beit core, and this had a big rock, and you would tell me that's not part of it, you have to give me a little bit of an extra space over here. If that rock were lower, I would say, yeah, it's all part of the same land. Don't give me a hard time. But if the rock is too high or too deep, it's its own space, and I have to give you, I promised you a beit core, I'd have to make it up with some extra land. Okay? Less than that, in this case, you have to make up the land if the crevices are too deep, even if they're not filled with water. my timer. Why is it different? Amar Papa, if you ain't Adam wrote says she eating this ma'osa besada achat v'yirlo kishem chososha mekama. Because I don't want to pay money for a field, and basically, if there's a deep crevice, okay, I cannot, even if you're telling me it's not filled with water, if I want, I could plant in the crevice itself. But I did not. I want to do one, make one set of furrows, one set of harvesting. I do not want to have to deal with a separate crevice and deal with that as a separate space in order to plant and to harvest. It's not convenient. I don't get the economy of sort of scale or whatever. So therefore, in that case, even if it's plantable, because it requires separate attention and separate effort, I can say that is not what I was meaning when I was saying I was buying a square acre. I meant a square acre that I could sort of tend to and plant and harvest as a unit. So if that's a deep crevice and it's even if it's theoretically plantable, if it's only plantable separate, that doesn't count. And you have to make it up for me. You keep the crevice, you make it up for me, whatever, with a separate piece of land. Yes.
Why doesn't that hold for? There wouldn't be the same reasoning for the other.
Well, yeah, because but by the other here, the point is that because it's a transaction between two people and it's a sale, I can say that clearly was what I was hoping to get out of my money. Whereas in the case of redeeming by hekdesh, it's more like a formal question of does it fit in the Torah's definition of a beit kur, and as long as the whole thing is like plantable or whatever, right, then that's the rate in which it gets redeemed. It's not a transaction in what I was sort of hoping to get out of my money, right? So here it's more like a meeting of a mind where it goes more by their assumptions rather than by the case of redeeming hekdesh, where it goes more by like a formal definition. So that's the basic difference. Now that's what leads the Gemara then to ask. The reason we're doing this setup is the Gemara says, Hachamai. In our case, where he says, I'll show you a beit court to this woman, what would be the story if it had a crevice which was not filled with water? Which like model would you go by? Okay? Hachamai. Lehektish medamina lei or lemecher medamina lei. You would compare it to hektish or to smecher. Mistavra, now based on what I just said to Jenny, you might think we would go by Mecher because it goes by the meeting of minds, right? And therefore she could say, I thought you meant a beit core that was one unit that was easy to harvest. I was expecting, like that you would be able to make an easy living off of it. I didn't realize it would be so difficult. It had all those deep crevices that would require all that extra effort. But nevertheless, we say, no, as long as it's not filled with water, it's fine. Why? The Amar La, Ana Terachne V'Zarana Maisina. Look, yeah, it's an extra effort, but I'll invest the extra effort. I'll plant the crevice, no problem. If it's not plantable, clearly that wasn't meant. It was meant a beit core that was plantable. But if it's plantable, even if it's deep or whatever, and it's an extra effort, I'll do it. Now, this is again interesting, right? Because this is the same type of claim that was rejected before. Remember before, when he said it will be within a certain location and it's not, he can't say, well, don't worry, I'll make it up. I'll exert the effort. But that's when his condition wasn't met. Here, the question is, what does it define that is it a beit core or not? It's not the condition wasn't met, but he says, don't let it bother you. I'll make it up. Here, it is a beit core based on one measure, not based on another measure. Which measure do you apply? So this would be, again, a case where you might want to look at like a certain type of a reasonable expectation, assumption, context. If it's reasonable that he could say, look, it's good enough, it's close enough, it is technically a beit core and I'll put in the extra effort, right? So again, that gets an interesting question about how do you use assumptions and context to interpret what the words mean. But that's different than before when actually the condition wasn't met and he's saying, don't let it bother you, it's okay. I can make it up anyway. Here, it is met based on a particular definition. Jenny, you had a question about that?
No, just the first time he's sick during planting time and asked her to pull.
Right, exactly. Sure. Yeah, you're a big talker. You'll do all the effort.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, Shelby.
They're implicitly assuming that flooded areas do not have any value.
Well, not no value, but that they're not plantable.
Expected value.
But they are plantable in rice. So wet rice culture must not have made it to
all right, that's a
the
good
Middle
one.
East by then.
Always bringing in those fascinating facts, Charlie. Yes, that's
Where does the idea of the buyer beware come in here? In other words, shouldn't a fellow have looked at the land before? Why is this coming up?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. I mean, I think I'm going to push that off till we get to Baba Basra, because how much do we say let the buyer beware? And I mean, even when you say let the buyer beware, you have to satisfy the conditions of what you said, right? If it wasn't what you said it was. So, and then then there's a question about Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, right? I don't know. I'm going to have to bracket that. That's a good question, right? But how much you sort of say what you're saying is that the buyer beware means any ambiguity in what I said should be interpreted in favor of the seller,
No, I'm
right?
saying, why shouldn't the buyer be responsible? How much is the buyer responsible?
Right, to check
for
it out,
checking
figure it out
if
ahead of
he's
time.
buying, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. All right, let's take a look. Next Mishnah. Okay, so that was all these on the condition. That and the last thing we dealt with was a little bit of an interesting digression about how to define a beit core, but it really touches on the broader issue about how much you go by the literal meaning of what was said, how much you employ context to add things, how much you employ context or implicit assumptions, etc., to define what the definition of something is, and so on. Okay, now we get to a classic debate about how to formulate your conditions. Rabbi Meir said, Kol T'nai, She'eno T'nai b'nei Gad b'nei Reuven. This is a big one. Any T'nai that is not like the conditions that the sons of God and Reuven, Moshe made with them. If you do this, you'll get the land, and if not, you won't get the land. Eno T'nai is not a binding condition, and therefore it means we throw out the condition, and the sale is good regardless, or the Kiddushin is good regardless. Shene'emar. Vayomer Alehem, and Moshe said to them, then they will get this land of on Aver Yarden. But if they do not go ahead armed in front of their brethren Israel, then they will get with you in the land of Canaan, but they won't get this land. So he says, it wasn't enough to say if they will. He had to say if they don't, they won't. So presumably, if you say, you are married to me if I give you 200 zuz, and you don't say, and you're not married to me if I don't, then whether you give 200 zuz or not, the woman is mukudeshet. If you do not double the t'nai gets thrown out. Now, actually here, there is, for anybody who's ever learned prepositional logic, there is a good reason for this, because how much do people remember? If P then Q does not mean if not P then not Q. That's not true. What it means is, if not Q, then not P.
Yeah.
Okay, because if P then Q, which means like, if it's nice, we're going to go on a picnic. Okay. So it doesn't mean if it's not nice, we're not going to go on a picnic. If it's not nice, we'll have to discuss it. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Depends if we can, depends how not nice it is or whatever. Okay, if it's not nice, we're definitely going on a picnic. What that does mean is, if we didn't go on a picnic, right, then it definitely wasn't nice, because you told me if it was nice, we're going to go on a picnic. So we didn't go. If it's not Q, then not P. But it does not mean that if it's not nice, we're not going on a picnic. If it's not nice, who knows? Maybe yes, maybe no. You're married to me if I give you 200 zuz. If I don't give you 200 zuz, maybe you're still married to me. Okay, so therefore, that's actually technically true. It's not how most people talk. Okay, but it technically is true that if you say, you don't know anybody who talks that way. Okay, I just have to interrupt to tell you one thing my brother did when we were in high school, which is we were taking a test on, I think it was like a test on like prepositional logic, and the like all the exact way you sort of frame things, and the teacher had the test it had this list of like statements, and the answers, the assignment, the instructions were write true by every statement that's true and false by every statement that's false. So we wrote true and false by every single statement, because he said you didn't say write true and only true. That's true. And I wrote true by every statement that's true and false by every statement. I also wrote another word in my head. So,
how'd that go over?
yeah, not so well. Like, not only was I not smart enough to think of that, I never would have risked my grade on something like that. But anyway, okay. So that's what Rabbi Meir says. Rabbi Meir says that if they do this, they'll get the land, they'll get Aver Yarden. Doesn't mean if they don't do it, they won't get Aver Yarden. So therefore, if you didn't make the second part of the condition, then the non-fulfillment of the condition does not negate the action. The condition is only binding if you say both the positive and the negative. Now, okay, that is the primary thing that he emphasizes. Now, that there are other things that do come up from what we learned from T'nai b'nei Gad b'nei Reuven. Another is Rashi mentions two other things, although the Mishnah clearly is emphasizing what's called the T'nai kafel, the double. Rashi also mentions T'nai kodem l'maaseh. If you do this, you will get the land of Canaan. If I give you 200 zuz, you are married to me. If I say the other way, you are married to me if I give you 200 zuz, because I stated the act first, it therefore, even though I sort of tried afterwards to say, wait, it's dependent on the following thing, since I gave primacy to the act, you are married to me. If I give you no, then you're married to me. The t'nai, the condition, is not strong enough to undermine the act if it was only articulated later. Okay, that's just a technical formulation, but conceptually, what he's basically saying is, and you could sort of see this throughout, the act is so powerful, and the idea that condition can uproot it or stop it from taking effect is a huge chiddush. So in order for it to have that power, it's got to be very, very clear that the whole act is totally conditional. It's got to be clear that if it's that the conditions under which it won't take effect, you can't just imply that in a certain condition, the negative, you can imply from the positive. It has to be stated at the very outset as being all conditional on the following thing. If you made the condition later, you give a little bit too much primacy to the act. The condition is not strong enough to prevent it. Rabbi Meir requires you can imagine somebody sort of saying, listen, I want to make it very clear. Only if you do this, I'm not going under no other circumstance will I only if, right? So that's sort of the way he thinks. Unless you have you make it clear both sides, you say it ahead of time. Otherwise, the act is so powerful that it will take effect regardless. Jacob, you got
just like it resonates with me in terms of human psychology. Like when I'm at camp and I say to my campers, we're going to do blank if, right. By the time I get to the if. They're
like, wait, you said we were going to do it. Yeah. Right, exactly. Right, so you have to start saying, listen, if and only if, right? Which is sort of what Rabbi Meir is saying, right? Okay, so, and the third thing Rashi says, which is less as sort of obvious why that it's necessary, is, what's the third thing called on? Actually, is the positive before the negative. If you do, I guess this I don't understand as much. It's like if I give you 200 zuz, you're married to me. If I don't give you 200 zuz, you're not married to me, right? If you say the reverse, if I don't give you 200 zuz, you're not, and if I do, you are. Well, I guess it's the same point. If you end by, if I do, you are, you're ending by emphasizing that the act will take effect. And again, for him, in order to make the act is so powerful that in order to prevent it from taking effect, you have to very clearly, like in all ways, sort of make it show that it's tentative. So if you start by saying, if you do this, you're married, and if not, you're not, you end by saying there are ways in which you're not going to be married to me. Okay, whereas if you start by the not and you end by and if you do, you are, somehow that would actually mean that it would take effect regardless. Okay, so those are the three major things for Rabbi Meir, T'nai Kaful, and all of these are in T'nai B'nai Gad B'nai Reuven. Okay, T'nai Kodem L'Ma'aseh and Hein Kodem L'Lav. Okay, those are the three things. So if I give you $200. You're married, okay? So that's T'nai coming before the Ma'aseh, okay? And if I don't, you're not married, okay? So this is the T'nai Kaful. It's being repeated, okay? And this is the Hein. If I do, you're married. This is the Hein, the yes, coming before the Lav. Okay, only when all three of those conditions are met is it going to be.
Right, so you say it's not
about... T'nai, and this is Ma'aseh. It's T'nai Kaful, because it's this, and this is the Hein coming before the Lav. Yes.
Right, so Titkadshili Almanach Etain Lach Matayim Zuz.
That would be the
That's not the Maaseh Kodem.
That's Maaseh Kodem L'T'nai.
So that's not good.
Correct.
But every single case we've seen, thousands.
Right.
So this is Rabbi Meir.
Those aren't Rabbi Meir.
Sorry,
and those also aren't T'nai Kaful, those earlier Mishnayot. Yes. Now there's an interesting question. Do we paskin Rabbi Meir? And maybe we only paskin Rabbi Meir in some of these and not in all of these. Particularly T'nai Kaful, there's a reason to think we paskin Rabbi Meir, although it's not in any of the earlier Mishnayot. Yeah.
Well, that's actually my question. It's rare to see a Mishnah open up with a statement specifically attributed to Rabbi Meir.
Right. It's true. Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir,
we don't usually identify them explicitly.
Right. But the previous Mishnahs might not be Rabbi Meir. Okay, that's what Rabbi Meir says. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel Omer, Tzarich hadavar lo omro. No. The repetition here is not to tell you there's a general need for Tanai Kafel. If Moshe had not said, and if you don't go over, you'll get in Canaan, I could have anyway learned that if you didn't go over, they wouldn't get Aver Hayarden. So why did Moshe have to repeat it? For the following reason. If the Mali Cain had he not said that, if Moshe had said, if you go over, you'll get Aver Hayarden, full stop, what would I have said? And if you don't go over, you'll get nothing. Okay, you won't get the part that you were asking for, and you won't also get Eretz Canaan, because heck, you didn't even do anything for Eretz Canaan or whatever. That wasn't part of the deal. It was all about this. So therefore, you didn't need a Tanai Kafel to say you wouldn't get Aver Hayarden. The reason Moshe repeated himself, he didn't repeat himself. The reason he said the flip side was to say that if you don't go over, at least you'll get part of Eretz Canaan. Now, some of you might be thinking, why is that fair? That's a question to ask on the Psukim. Why are they being told that if they don't help and fight the war, they'll get an Eretz Canaan? I mean, they're sitting back doing absolutely nothing, and they should get part of Eretz Canaan. So actually, Tosu says on the next Amud, that's what Rashi says, that in the end of the day, Moshe was telling them, if you don't fight, you'll get part of Canaan, which is like, why is that fair? But that's what I think you asked when you read the Psukim. So Tosu says, no. It says, Im lo yavu chalutzim lifnei achechem b'nei Yisrael. That the basic condition was, you'll get Aver Hayarden if you go ahead and lead the charge. But if you don't lead the charge, if you don't go at the head of the army, you just participate normally, you won't get Aver Hayarden, you'll get a normal part of Eretz Canaan. Okay, so that's an interesting question about how do we shout at the Psukim. Right? When Moshe is saying, if you don't go Chalutzim, you'll get Eretz Canaan, but not Aver Hayarden, is he saying you don't go at all? Or is he saying you don't lead the charge? Anyway, Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel is saying is that without repeating it, they would not have gotten, it would have been clear they didn't get Aver Hayarden. The flip side had to be said to say that they will still get the land of Canaan. Let's take a look at the Gemara. The Gemara is a little bit confusing here. We'll do our best. Okay, Shabir Kavali Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Gamliel has a good response to Rabbi Meir that you needed to tell me that they would get part of Canaan. Amalcha Rabbi Meir would say, if the repetition was not to tell you for Tanai Kafel to tell you that that you won't get Aver Hayarden, it was only to tell you would get part of the land of Canaan. So lichtov lo yavru v'nochzu b'tochechem. Just say, if you don't pass over, they'll get with you. And that would have told me they got a portion of the land of Canaan, right? And because that's what you're saying, Rabbi Chanina. You need to tell me they'll get land of Canaan. So just say v'nochzu b'tochechem. Be'eretz Canaan lamali. Why does it have to say underscore be'eretz Canaan? Shema mina l'tnai kafel u'ya'asa. This is teaching you the Tanai Kafel. How is it teaching you the Tanai Kafel? Because what the Eretz Canaan means is that you will only get in the land of Canaan and not in Aver Hayarden. Meaning, here's what this is going to get a little confusing. Okay, we'll do our best. It's so true that the green marker doesn't erase well. Somebody said this is like a din in green markers. Okay, anyway. So. Im Ya'avru, what is it? Then it's then what's the end of the pasuk? No, if they are Ya'avru, I don't know, something. Okay, anyway. Okay, Im Ya'avru here. We'll draw a little map of Israel. Excuse my black bar screen. Okay, so here's the Canaan. Here's what? What'd you say?
It's a very political map.
A very political map. Okay, anyway. Okay, so, Im Ya'avru, they'll get Eretz Gilad. Okay? Nasatem lachem Eretz Gilad. Okay, so, they'll get Eretz Gilad. Now, in Lo Ya'avru, now remember, Rav Meir says, okay, that without saying Tanai Kafel, they would still have gotten Eretz Gilad, okay? And Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel said, no. It had to say it, not to say they won't get Eretz Gilad. That was implicit. It had to say it to tell them they would get Eretz Canaan, okay? V'nochzu b'tochechem. So Rabbi Meir says, if it just said, let it say v'nochzu b'tochechem, and then that tells me that they'll get Canaan. Why does it say the Eretz Canaan? What does those extra words add? Because I already would have known to get Eretz Canaan. It means that had it not said those words, then if it just said Lo Yavru v'Nochazu b'Tochachem, I of course would have said the absurd conclusion that they'll still get Eretz HaGilad and they'll get b'Tochachem, because again, without saying if you don't have a Tanai Kafel, then the first thing remains true. Okay, so they're going to get Eretz Gilad v'Achuzah, and if they don't pass over, they'll also get Eretz Canaan. That's not what I would have read it. Okay, and so if you're right, Rabbi Chanina, then that implicitly this would have been rejected, and all that would have been with this, you wouldn't have needed these words. Why do you need these words? Because these words are saying only Eretz Canaan and not Gilad.
Right, they would not get Gilad. If they
So,
get nothing,
so
they
that
would not
shows
get
you that you need to reject the original condition explicitly. Okay, if you did not need to reject the original condition explicitly, if that would be implicitly rejected, just say v'nochzu b'tochachem, that would have meant Canaan, yes, Gilad, no. The fact that you needed to underscore only Eretz Canaan means that otherwise the original condition would not have been rejected, and they would have been entitled to Gilad as well. And this was needed to tell me only Canaan, not Gilad, to reject the original condition. Yes.
Oh, so the problem, it seems to me, with that is that Eretz Canaan isn't a rejection. Like, it's not phrased as a law. It's phrased as a different sort of pain.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but this is getting to the point where you're doing extra phrases, and we're saying are teaching me extra things, and it's not explicitly part of the stipulation. You're right. I mean, you could have said Eretz Canaan is just saying yes, it's not saying no to Eretz Gilad. Right, that's correct. But we're doing our best. Okay. All right. So let's keep on going. So the Gemara says like this. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, I would say back to you. No, no, you're wrong. We would have anyway known that Gilad is rejected. So if we would have known that Gilad is rejected implicitly, because that's the nature even of a single Tanai, why do you have to say Beretz Canaan? He would say, because I would have said B'tochachem didn't mean Canaan. Right. Who says what B'tochachem means? I would have said B'tochachem meant Gilad. Of course, if it means Gilad, then what's the two sides of the condition? Because here is you get all of the Gilad to yourself. But if you're not Yavru, then you're equal partners in the Gilad. B'tochachem. So I would not have said that it meant Canaan. I would have said it meant you'll be equal partners in the Gilad. But I would not have said that they get a portion in Canaan. Okay? Eretz Canaan klalo. So that's why I had to say Eretz Canaan. So just the Tanai implicitly means if the Tanai isn't met, they do not get all of Gilad. Okay? But this could not have just said, but we have to tell me that they get Canaan. And if you just said this, it would have meant a piece of Gilad. So I'd have to say Eretz Canaan to tell me that they get the Canaan, that they also are entitled to some of Canaan. Rabbi Meir would say back, no. No. B'tochachem means wherever you have. So with just this would have meant you get a portion in Canaan and in Gilad. Okay, that means wherever you might be. So without, if that's all this was coming to do, this by itself would have told me what you Rabbi Chanina think. B'tochachem means since Bnei Yisrael would have Gilad and Canaan, they would have part of Gilad. So why did it seem to say Beretz Canaan? Because Beretz Canaan is limiting, and it's telling me not you get a portion where everybody gets, you only get Canaan, you don't get any of Gilad, and that's because you need to explicitly reject the first statement, the first Tanai. Without rejecting the first Tanai, then that's still in effect, and they would still have been entitled to the Gilad. Okay? I hope you got the basic sense of that. We're going to move on. Okay. Tanya, we taught in the Brisa. I'm already Chanina ben Gamliel. When this thing, he's trying to demonstrate how you had to say was not meant to reject Gilad, but to entitle them to a portion of the land of Canaan. Okay? The guy was distributing on his deathbed his property to his kids. Amar, Ploni b'ni Yirash Sada Ploni. Reuven will get such and such a field. Uploni b'ni Yirash Ploni, and Shimon will get such a field. Uploni b'ni and Levi yitin 200 zuz. If he gives 200 zuz to, I don't know, to charity, to the state, V'yirash Sada Ploni, then he'll get field number 3. The Mlo yitain. Now, if he had not said anything else, if he had just ended there, you would have thought that that if he doesn't give, right, maybe he's out of an inheritance altogether. So then he says, no, if he doesn't give, then he'll have a portion with his other brothers. So, meaning this is his way of illustrating that the reason you had to say the second part is not to say he doesn't get the field. It's obvious he doesn't get the field if he doesn't give the 200 zuz. What it's to say is that he still gets a portion with everybody else. He still gets a piece of everything else. He gets part of the land of Canaan. Okay, mi garlo li Rashi Machav, what allowed him to have a portion with his brother, B'shar Nechasim, Kfeilo garmo, the repetition, the flip side. So the reason Moshe said lo yavru v'nochzu b'torachem was not to say they don't get Gilad, it was to say they do get a piece of Canaan. The Gemara says 1 minute. And it's not similar to our mission. And our mission says that if Moshe not repeated the Tanai, they wouldn't have had any part of the land of Canaan. So that means it says means that when they do, it means that in the end, what would they have gotten had they not gone and fought? They would have gotten an equal portion in Canaan and a portion in Gilad. Right, because they would have gotten both. They would have got all of Gilad, but they would have gotten a piece of everything. Okay, so here the repetition gives him a portion with the remainder. It's only going to help him for the rest. It's getting a little bit complicated, but the basic point is: what would I have said had I not had this repetition? Had I not had this repetition, would I have said that they get nothing, right? And this repetition tells me that they get Gilad and Canaan. They get an equal piece of everything. Okay, that's what the Mishnah sounds like. Afler it's Canaan. This repetition tells me they get a little piece of everything. Or would I have said that without the repetition, they're still going to get a piece of Gilad, but I didn't know that they would get any part of Canaan. It's a little confusing. Let's just finish this point. The Gemara says like this. Lo kasha. Ha mikmi d'neimele Rabbi Meir v'nochzu, halabasu d'neimele Rabbi Meir v'nochzu. The difference is the phrase v'nochazu. V'nochazu establishes that by itself, before Eretz Canaan, that they would have had a part of the Gilad. The Eretz Canaan added the part that they also would have gotten a part of the Canaan. So bottom line is that for Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, he says, look, without any of the phrase, I would have known that they would not have gotten all of the Gilad to themselves. I would have started with the assumption that they get nothing, absolutely nothing, okay? Because they weren't promised Canaan. All you need is one half of the Tanai. Without that Tanai, they get nothing. Nochzu b'tochachem would have told me they get an equal part of the Gilad. That's the first thing it needed to do. To tell me an equal part of the Gilad. Second thing, Eretz Canaan told me they get an equal part of Eretz Canaan. But this whole thing is needed to tell me they do get some part of this. But to say they don't get all the Gilad that they were promised, that's obvious from the get-go, okay? And Rabbi Meir says, no, if they'd not done anything here, even had they not fulfilled their condition, they would have gotten all of the Gilad. You needed it to be repeated to reject the promise of the first part of the condition. Whereas Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel says, no, obviously they wouldn't have gotten all the Gilad. This is needed to say they get a piece of this and that they get a piece of that. Okay, so we're done with now parsing the psukim. Tomorrow we will continue just working out the idea of double condition according to Rabbi Meir. Okay, so to be continued tomorrow.